It's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and it's list time again. This is the 25 best Star Trek Next Generation episodes of all time, according to Screen Rant. So, let's get into it, shall we? So, here we go. But before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the video, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already. This will be exclusive to my Patreon for a couple of weeks, a timed exclusive, and then it'll go up on YouTube after that. So go and check out my Patreon page. Links in the description for all that stuff. And also the merch store where you can get T-shirts and cups and stuff, bags, I don't know, all sorts of stuff on the merch store. So there you go. Right, so let's get on with it, shall we? Here we go. Screen Rant. Best Star Trek TNG episodes of all time. I don't know if I'll agree. I've not read it, so I don't know. So this could be a surprise to me as it is to you. I imagine number one will be either like Best of Both Worlds or The Inner Light. I bet it is. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Right, throughout its 7 seasons, the Star Trek The Next Generation delivered some of the greatest science fiction stories of all time, and narrowing the list down to a top 25 is no easy feat. Following the adventures of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Sir Patrick Stewart, and as I keep saying, a local lad, although you wouldn't know to listen to him talking, but he's lost his accent. Anyway, and the USS Enterprise D, The Next Generation, picked up about a century after the end of Star Trek, the original series. I think it was 78 years, something like that. Actually, no, I think it was more than that, actually, wasn't it? Was it 2364, wasn't it? So yeah, we're about 100 years, just under 98 years after the beginning of the original series, wasn't it? Because that was 2266, wasn't it? Anyway, about a century after the end of Star Trek, the original series, The Next Generation may have gotten that word, Sir Alec Guinness's favourite word, may have gotten off to a rocky start with its first season, and kind of with the second season as well. But there were good episodes in both seasons. But the show quickly found its footing and ultimately delivered more hits than misses. Captain Picard and his crew went on to captivate an entirely new generation of Star Trek fans, eventually becoming just as popular as their predecessors Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, and Mr. Spock Leonard Nimoy. Not only did The Next Generation usher in a golden age... By the way, can you see that? Is it big enough? Make it a bit bigger. There we go. I forgot what I want now. I forgot where I am. There we go. Not only did the Next Generation usher in a golden age of Star Trek, but it also laid the groundwork for everything that came after. Even today, shows like Star Trek Picard have continued to revisit many of the stories that began on TNG. And also the final season of Star Trek Discovery used the storyline began in the Next Generation Season 6 episode The Chase. Anyway. Star Trek The Next Generation would not have endured so long if it hadn't delivered so many incredible and groundbreaking episodes of television. Here's the very best of Star Trek The Next Generation, in their opinion, I imagine. Right, number 25, The Most Toys. I don't know if this would be up there for me. I wasn't a fan of this, but anyway, here we go. When Lieutenant Commander Data, or is it Lieutenant Commander Data? I don't know, Lieutenant Commander Data, Brent Spiner is kidnapped by Kivas Fajo, Saul Rubinek, who were originally supposed to be played, well, he actually was originally played by, I forgot what his name now, David Rappaport. Is it David Rappaport? The little person. But he went off and killed himself, unfortunately, so they had to get Saul Rubinek in. The android does his best to fight back against the morally bankrupt Collector. Because Fajo faked Data's death, Picard and the USS Enterprise D crew mourn their fallen friend until they begin to suspect that something is amiss. Meanwhile, Fajo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because it's a while since I've watched this one. It's not one of my favourites, to be honest. This wouldn't be in my list. Fajo tries even Data's patience, threatening to kill his own assistants to force Data to comply. In the end, the Enterprise returns to rescue Data, but not before he apparently fires a phaser at Fajo, which the android's programming should prevent. With his obsession with hoarding priceless artifacts and disregard for human life, Fazio is one of the next generation's most despicable one-off characters, played to slimy perfection by Saul Rubinek. The Most Toys offers insight into Data as another step on the android's journey to become human. But it just kind of... Did he fire a phaser? Because he doesn't actually say, I don't think he does, he doesn't actually say at the end that he did fire the phaser, to kill Fazio as he were being beamed out. I think he kind of says it must have been some sort of malfunction or something like that, or an anomaly, or whatever. By the way, I've got my Star Trek cap on, if you know it. As I said, not one of my favourites. Number 24, Remember Me. I like this one. This is a good one. It's a Beverly one. This is the other Beverly one. The other one being Sub Rosa, which people tend not to like. But this one's a good one. I like this one. This might be in my top 25. In one of Dr. Beverly Crusher's Gates McFadden's best episodes, the USS Enterprise D's Doctor ends up in an inexplicably shrinking universe. As Dr. Crusher goes about her day, she notices that various Enterprise proofreading, thing of the past, keep disappearing. When she raises her concerns, however, she discovers no record of these officers exists. Eventually, she and Captain Picard are the only ones left aboard, with Picard assuring her that this is how it has always been. Note, Dr. Crusher declares, if there's nothing wrong with me, maybe there's something wrong with the universe. That's a bloody... a nowadays statement, if anything, isn't it? Anyway. And she sets about trying to solve the problem. Because, if you've got an alternative viewpoint, or if you've got a viewpoint that that you stick to no matter what, it's the universe's problem, not yours, apparently, these days. But anyway, I mean, having a differing opinion's fine, but, be a bit flexible. And don't blame the universe for your problems. Meanwhile, aboard the real Enterprise, Ensign Wesley Crusher, Will Wheaton... Hang on, where are we?
Will Wheaton.
And the rest of the crew work to stabilise the warp bubble that Beverly has become trapped in, within which Beverly has become trapped. With some help from the traveller Eric Menyuk, they eventually succeed, and Dr. Crusher jumps back to the real universe. Literally jumps back to the real universe. It's all right. I like this episode. It's a good one, I must admit. We've got some pictures to look at. Didn't look at the Most Toys ones because I don't like that episode particularly. But anyway, there's the traveller, and there she is. There you go. Right. Number 23, Frame of Mind. Another one that I don't particularly like, but I'm not a big fan of these sorts of episodes. Whether are they crazy sort of thing. I don't like those sorts of episodes. Or episodes where they're trapped in prisons. I know I've said this a million times before if you've watched my videos. But anyway, those sorts of ones. Anyway, Frame of Mind. This wouldn't be in my top 25 either. In one of TNG's most unsettling episodes, Commander William Riker, Jonathan Frakes, finds himself questioning his own reality when he wakes up in a mental institution. Riker goes from portraying a mental patient in a play on the Enterprise to actually being a mental patient himself, as strange aliens try to convince Riker that he dreamt up the Enterprise. This is why I'm not a big fan. I know people go on about it on DS9. I forgot the name of the bloody Enterprise now. Far Amongst the Stars, where the bloody hell they call it. The one with where he's a writer in the 1940s or 50s or whenever it is. I don't like that episode. I don't like it because I don't like those sorts of episodes, and I didn't like that they kept going back to it at the end, and particularly in season 7 and at the end, kept going back to it that he was this. Was he really a crazy person? Not a crazy person, but a person in a mental institution writing the DS9 story on his room wall, or was he really Benjamin Sisko? I didn't like it. Anyway. But that's not this one. Right. As strange aliens tried to... I've just read that one. I'll read it again. As strange aliens tried to convince Riker that he dreamt up the Enterprise, Riker struggles to claw his way back to reality. Eventually, Riker shatters every fake reality, finding himself on an operating table with a strange device attached to his head. After being rescued by the Enterprise, Riker learns that he had been captured while on a covert mission by aliens, trying to gain information about the Federation. Jonathan Frakes delivers a stellar performance here, and the episode uses cool shatter effects to add to the strangeness of it all. As I said, I'm not a big fan of this episode. But I do like... I know it's not... It's kind of the same, where you see things that aren't real, but it works out that it's not real. The one... I forgot what they call it now. The one with his son, where he thinks he's led to believe he's in the future, but he loses his memory every 24 hours or something. Like he loses his memory, can't remember anything, or whatever. That was in Enterprise, wasn't it? With Archer, they did a similar one in that, but this one, Riker's lost his memories from a few days ago, whatever. Anyway, I like that one. But anyway, right. Number 22, Redemption. I say this is a decent one. In this Klingon-centric two-parter, the USS Enterprise D, proofreading, thing of the past, visits the Klingon homeworld of Kronos to see Gowron, Robert O'Reilly, to be installed as Chancellor of the Klingon High Council. With the Klingons on the brink of a civil war, Lieutenant Worf, Michael Dorn, takes a leave of absence to urge his brother Kern, Tony Todd, to back Gowron. When Captain Picard speaks out in favour of Gowron, Lursa, Barbara March and Bator, Gwyneth Walsh, I like Lursa and Bator, begin preparing for civil war. Captain Picard assembles ships to create a blockade between the Klingon and the Romulan border to prevent the Romulans from aiding the Duras sisters, because their father, who framed Worf's father, Moog, saying that he were a Romulan conspirator. It would actually Duras, the elder, that was the Romulan conspirator, which also means for some reason their kids all become Romulan conspirators as well. Don't know how that worked out, but it did. Anyway, Commander Sealer, Denise Crosby, the half-Romulan daughter of Tasha Yar, tries to find a way around the blockade. But Data... By the way, I watched yesterday's Enterprise last night, where we had Tasha Yar come back, which is the start of all this sort of... But Data thwarts her plan from his position in command of the USS Sutherland. I like this episode. I like when Data's in command. And he puts his foot down with a firm hand. The Duras sisters back off from their attack and escape before Worf can apprehend them. But they leave their brother, whose name I've forgotten, to the mercy of the Klingons. And you know what? I can't remember what happens to him. Windgrace, help me out in the comments. I forgot what happens to the young Duras brother. Does he come back? I can't remember. Or does he? We assumed he's executed. I don't know. Number 21, Sarek. Another good one. That is with Mark Lenard returning as Spock's father, Ambassador Sarek. Anyway, although Star Trek The Next Generation distanced itself from Star Trek the original series, not really. I mean, you had bloody... In the first episode, in Captain Farpoint, you had McCoy in it. I think it might have been the second episode. May have been. The Naked Now were just a remake of The Naked Time. So, anyway. This mindset was beginning to shift by the end of TNG's third season. In the aptly titled Sarek, Mark Lenard returns to portray Sarek, the Vulcan father of Spock, Leonard Nimoy. Soon after Ambassador Sarek boards the USS Enterprise D, the crew members begin to experiencing uncharacteristic spikes in emotion. With help from Counsellor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, Dr. Crusher eventually realises that Sarek is suffering from Bendy syndrome. A Vulcan degenerative... I can't say it. Maybe I've got Bendy syndrome. Or is it Bendai syndrome? Whatever. A Vulcan degenerative neurological disease. As Sarek is set to attend an important conference, Captain Picard offers to share a mind meld with the elderly Vulcan to shoulder some of his strongest emotions. Picard suffers through Sarek's feelings of regret and loss in an incredibly emotional scene performed beautifully by Patrick Stewart. Yeah, it's a good one. And it carries on. It leads into the season 5 two-part unification where we get to meet Spock and they kind of... Sarek dies, by the way, spoilers, in that episode. We don't see it's off screen, but Sarek dies and Spock is able to kind of have a rapprochement with his father, but after the fact, because he mind melds with Picard and learns that his father did love him in a Vulcan way, obviously. So there we go. So yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Number 20, Reunion, another one I like because it's got Susie Plaxon in. I always like Susie Plaxon when she's in. She's good as, because she's easy on the eye and she's a good actress as well. And she's got uses authority. She's good as strong women, isn't she? Because she's about 8 foot tall. And she was good in Enterprise as well as the baddie Andorian. She was a bad Andorian. Anyway. Previously introduced in the Next Generation Season 3, Episode 20, The Emissary, not Emissary, the Deep Space Nine pilot, Worf's former flame, Kayla, Susie Plaxon, returns in Reunion with a big surprise for the Klingon security officer. Since their last encounter, Kayla has given birth to Worf's son, Alexander, John Paul Stewart, and kept the young Klingon a secret from his father. Worf wonders why Alexander is not more interested in Klingon culture and worries that his son will be negatively affected by the dishonour on his name. Meanwhile, Captain Picard works with Kayla to investigate a Klingon political matter that ends up getting her killed. Worf then avenges her by killing her murderer, the Klingon Duras, Patrick Massett. This is set before the Redemption, obviously. Despite only appearing in 2 episodes, Kayla was one of TNG's best guest stars, thanks in large part to the energy Susie Plaxon brought to the character, making her death all the more tragic. And it always sends chills down my spine when Worf finds her dead body. Well, no, he don't find a dead body, she's dying. And, he's got to then watch her die in his arms, and he does the old Klingon roar of anguish. Ooh, chills. Cool stuff. Good episode. Number 19, The Wounded. This is a good episode, but I wouldn't put it in between top 25. But it's a good one because it's a what's his face? O'Brien episode. And he was getting an early look at the Cardassians before they decided to change their uniforms. When did we first see the When we first saw the Cardassians, they had moustaches and stuff, didn't they? But anyway. When the USS Phoenix suddenly goes rogue and begins attacking Cardassian vessels, the USS Enterprise D is ordered to track it down. Cardassian Gul Macet, Mark Alemo, not Gul Dukat, as he would become in Deep Space Nine, is a different Gul in this one, comes aboard the Enterprise to assist, creating a tense environment with Chief Miles O'Brien Colomini, who served during the Cardassian War. Captain Benjamin Maxwell, Bob Gunton of the Phoenix, insists that the Cardassians are preparing to attack, but O'Brien eventually convinces him to stand down. The Phoenix is a Nebula-class starship, isn't it? So there we go. In the end, Captain Picard, the Nebula is kind of like the Miranda class of the Galaxy class fleet, if you know what I mean. It's like a Miranda class version of a Galaxy class ship, as the Miranda class is a different version of the Constitution class. They're basically kit bashers, aren't they? Anyway. In the end, Captain Picard suspects that Maxwell may have been right, and he warns the Cardassians that they will be under close observation. The Wounded is notable not only for being the first episode to focus on Chief O'Brien, but also for introducing the Cardassians. Oh, so what is this one? When we first saw him. Maybe we just didn't see him in that picture. But I'm sure in the first time we saw them, they had beards and moustaches. Anyway, the Cardassians would, of course, go to become the main villains on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Mark Alemo will return as Gul Dukat. And Mark Alemo is an amazing actor, but yet we only see him in films and stuff mostly as like the heavy, small roles. But he's an amazing actor. Let's have a look, see if we see. Ah, there he is with his. Yes, I thought they had facial hair that they kind of got rid of by the time Deep Space Nine came along. I don't think we ever saw him with his facial hair again. Or these uniforms, for that matter. Anyway, number 18, Brothers. Again, another one I like, but it wouldn't be in my top 25. This one is... It's the first episode after the Borg, after the Best of Both Worlds, kind of trilogy. Cause the Best of Both Worlds, parts 1 and 2, and then Family, which kind of, an easing back after the drama of Best of Both Worlds. This was the first one after that one. Right. When Data suddenly takes over the... By the way, I thought it was weird that we had this episode called Brothers straight after an episode called Family, which were about Picard going to his brothers in France, to the vineyard, the Picard vineyard in France. But anyway, I just thought it were, odd that they had similarly themed episodes. When Data suddenly takes over the Starship Enterprise single-handedly, I think it's this one where he emulates Picard's voice, and he's speaking in Picard's voice, saying, code 34290, I don't know, saying it all, loads of numbers. When Data suddenly takes over the Starship Enterprise single-handedly, he flies the ship home to the home of his creator, Dr. Noonien Sung. Sung reveals that he is dying, so he triggered a homing device implanted within Data's positronic brain so that he could give the android an emotion chip, unbeknownst to Dr. Sung, but knownst to us. Law was also summoned, and he soon arrives, tricking Sung into giving him the emotion chip. I didn't like this because I didn't mind the episode, but I didn't like that Sung was still alive. He was supposed to have been killed with everybody else at wherever that colony. I forgot what they called it now. But anyway, Law then injures Sung and leaves the deactivated Data to be found by the Enterprise crew. Upon being reactivated, Data comforts Sung and he dies, and although Data protests he will not be able to mourn his creator, Sung disagrees. Brothers marks a particularly devastating moment in Data's journey to become human, and Brent Spiner carries the episode doing triple duty as Data, Law, and the elderly Dr. Sung. It's all right. I don't mind it, but I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. Anyway, so there we go. This is where, like I said, we first see the emotion chip, which Law steals, but Data gets back by the beginning of season 7 in the episode Descent. Anyway, number 17, Disaster. I like this one. This is a good one. I don't like the kids, but but this is a good one. This was a Picard day, I think, isn't it, at the beginning? When most of the USS Enterprise D's main systems suddenly shut down, crew members get trapped all over the ship. Captain Picard ends up with an injured ankle, stuck in a turbo lift with 3 young children, while Councillor Deanna Troi finds herself in command on the bridge. Only because she's kind of got an honorary rank of Lieutenant Commander. Even though I don't think she's ever been to the academy, but for some reason she's got the honorary rank of Lieutenant Commander. I know after this, she does go on and do the Starfleet exams or whatever. I think she becomes a full commander eventually, doesn't she? This episode gave her the oomph to actually become like a command officer, doesn't it? If you know what I mean. An actual officer rather than just the ship's counsellor with her sexy clothes that she wears. And also we've got Captain Jellicoe to thank for that as well, because he ordered her to wear standard uniforms, didn't he, in that episode, that 2-part where Captain Jellicoe takes over command. And after that, she kind of wore the normal uniforms afterwards, didn't she? Anywho, while Councillor Deanna Troi finds herself in command of the bridge, Riker, Data and Worf are all in 10 forward with a very pregnant Keiko O'Brien. Best part of the episode. Congratulations. You are now dilated 10 centimetres. You may now give birth. Anyway, Troi handles herself well in command, ultimately making the call that helps save the ship, although Marina says she's a terrible actress. I've said this before. In the episode, the one where she's changes look like a Romulan. It's bloody. I don't mind the episode, but she's bloody horrible in it. Anyway, Worf hilariously helps deliver Keiko's baby. I am pushing! As Riker and Data head to engineering to regain control of the Enterprise. Riker and Data's head, they should say. Oh, he actually takes Data's head to the engineering, doesn't it? It takes off Data's head, plugs him in. Anyway, Picard encourages the children trapped with him to work together as they make their way out of the turbo lift. Every main character gets something to do in disaster, and the end result is at times charming, funny, and heartwarming. They don't mention that on the bridge we've got Chief O'Brien on the bridge, who is obviously the most experienced, officer, even though technically is a non-commissioned officer, isn't he? Chief Petty Officer, isn't he? But he's the lowest in rank on the bridge, but he's the most experienced person on the bridge. He should have been in charge. So we've got him, and we've also got Ensign Rowe, who tries to take charge because she's after what's her face, Troy. I think she's the most senior officer. I think. I don't think there are any lieutenants on the bridge at the time. So she's the most senior officer on the bridge. But Chief O'Brien should have said, "I'm taking command because I'm the most experienced." Anywho, it's a good episode. Another one here. This would definitely be in my top 25. Maybe even in my top 10. I'd love Relics. But anyway, off we go. The one with Scotty, obviously. The USS Enterprise D responds to a distress call to find the USS Janolan, a transport ship that has been missing for 25 years. While investigating the ship... Is that all? No. It's not 25 years. It's like 75 years, isn't it? Yeah. Unbelievable. It's 75 years. While investigating the ship, Lieutenant Geordie LaForge, LeVar Burton, finds an intact life signal stored in one of the transporter's pattern buffers. He restores the pattern, discovering it to be Captain Montgomery Scott, James Doohan, former chief engineer of the USS Enterprise. And the Excelsior, briefly. Don't forget, he was the captain of engineering, briefly. Many other Star Trek characters have been saved by transporter pattern buffers over the years, including... don't know. Scotty, Eagering... What? Do you mean eagerly? Explores the Enterprise... Who wrote this? Sorry, I've just got to go and check. Who wrote this? I usually say, don't I, but I forgot. Rachel Hulshult. Sort yourself out, love. And proofread your stuff before you submit it. Scotty eagerly explores the Enterprise D and her new technology, but soon finds himself out of his depth. Scotty confesses to Captain Picard that he feels like a relic of the past. But the engineer's knowledge of old-school Starfleet technology later comes in handy. When the Enterprise gets trapped in a Dyson sphere, Scotty and Geordie work together to save the day. Scotty then sets off in a shuttle to continue his retirement from Starfleet, as they give him a shuttle. I can't remember which one it is, though. Is it the Galileo they give him, or do they give him one of the others? Can't remember. But yes, a good episode. I like it because it's all about people of a certain age wanting to still feel useful. And in the end, it does. It helps save the day. Right, in the USS Janolan. They get the USS Janolan working again. Number 15, The Defector, one which I watched the other day, oddly enough. Another good episode. Don't know if it'd be in my top 25, but it'd be up there. When the USS Enterprise picks up a supposed Romulan defector, Captain Picard and his crew are sceptical of the Romulan's claims. The Romulan reveals himself to be Admiral Aladar Jarok eventually, and he provides Picard with detailed tactical information on the Romulans. Although Jarok intended to provide the Enterprise with accurate information, it later comes out that he was set up by the Romulans. Captain Picard had anticipated some kind of response from the Romulans and confronted the Romulan ship with 3 Klingon birds of prey, rendering the conflict a stalemate. Because they went into the neutral zone, because he told them that they were gathering forces. The Romulans were gathering forces on a planet in the neutral zone. So that's why the Enterprise entered the neutral zone. When the Enterprise leaves the neutral zone, the crew finds that Jarok has taken his own life. With its tragic ending, The Defector is a different kind of Star Trek episode that offers insight into the Romulans and their ways of thinking. Because he keeps talking about his family. He's doing it for his family and his children, or his child. So that's why he's doing it. But he obviously doesn't think to bring his family with him. Because knowing the Romulans, his whole family have probably now been executed. So there you go. But anyway, speaking of family, number 14, which I mentioned it earlier on, family. This is the coda for the end of Best of Both Worlds. A good episode, a heartwarming episode. Again, it wouldn't be in my top 25. In a rare example of continuity between Star Trek The Next Generation episodes, I don't know, there's a lot of continuity in Star Trek episodes, but sometimes, not directly following on from one another, unless, it's a two-parter or whatever. DS9 often had three-parters, didn't it? Family follows up on Picard's traumatic experience as Locutus of Borg, taking a break from the Enterprise because it's been fixed, basically. It's in space, Doc. Being fixed. McKinley Station, that's where it is, being mended after the Borg incident. Taking a break from the Enterprise, Picard visits his brother, Jeremy Kemp, who, all very frightfully English, who runs the family vineyard in Le Bar, France. Robert and Jean-Luc get into an argument which culminates in a muddy fight, and they all end up laughing, and that's their coming together. And, the brothers again. Eventually, Jean-Luc opens up about the guilt he feels regarding his time as Locutus. Picard's brother and his family we don't know, but it's Picard's brother and his brother's son, Picard's nephew, René, later perish in a house fire that we're told about in Star Trek Generations, but we don't know about his brother's wife, whose name I've forgotten, but played by... Forgotten. She was in The Brood. What's the bloody name now? Can't remember. I will put it there if I remember. I'm not editing it, so I don't know. Look it up. It'll come to me. It's got an S in it. I'm sure it's got an S in it. Anyway, that's who plays his brother's wife. Although Picard had been considering leaving the Enterprise, to do the Atlantis project, supposed to be like raising up the raising Atlantis or something. Been considering leaving the Enterprise, his brother reminds him that he will have to work through his experiences regardless of where he is. Picard decides to remain captain of the Enterprise, thank goodness, and he and his brother part on better terms. Not only does family offer an interesting glimpse into Jean-Luc Picard's family, but it also marks one of the first times viewers see the usually unflappable Picard break down. Yes, it does, because the guilt for what he did as Locutus, all the lives that were lost. 11,000 at the Battle of Wolf 359. But anyway, family also includes subplots following Worf as his adoptive human parents visit him on the Enterprise, and Dr. Crusher as she receives a recording left by her late husband. Oh yes, we see. I forgot his name now. Whatever he's called, Crusher. What is his first name now? As soon as I start that thing up, my mind goes blank. And she gives it to Wesley. What am I like? I'm not going to edit this out. I'm going to leave all this in. She leaves it to Wesley, and he sees a video, a hologram of his dad. There we go. Number 13, Lower Decks. Yes, this will be my top 25. This is an amazing episode. Inspired the cartoon series, which I originally hated, but now I quite like. There we go. Right. So, Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek The Next Generation, focused mostly on the bridge crews, but The Next Generation's Lower Decks offers a glimpse of life as a junior officer. Bajoran Ensign Sito Jaxa, Shannon Phil, takes centre stage as she is chosen for a dangerous undercover mission, having previously been introduced as a Starfleet cadet in the Next Generation's The First Duty. Sito accepts the mission, eager to prove herself. In The First Duty, she was one of I forgot the name of the squad. The group of cadets led by Tom Paris. I know it's not Tom Paris. Robert Duncan McNeil, which Wesley's was part of, and they were doing a flight thing, and one of their number died, and they're trying to cover it up, but Wesley eventually owns up and all that stuff. So there we go. And she I don't know. I think she doesn't know how she got on the Enterprise, and it learns later on that it was Picard that suggested she was able to come aboard the Enterprise because they always thought everybody deserves a second chance. So except Tom Paris. Nick Locarno, that's it, Nick Locarno, who must have got drummed out of Starfleet. It pops up in the Lower Decks cartoon later, doesn't it? Anyway. Tragically, the shuttlecraft carrying Sito is destroyed before making it back to the Enterprise. As Captain Picard announces Sito's death over the comm system, her friends react with shock and sadness. Lower Decks illustrates the importance of every Starfleet crew member and emphasises that death matters in the Next Generation era Star Trek. This episode inspired the animated Star Trek Lower Decks, which takes a more light-hearted look at the lives of Starfleet's lower deckers. Yes, Babylon 5 did a similar episode from the viewpoint of two, engineers, mechanics, basically, during an attack on Babylon 5. So there we go. Number 12, Iborg. Yes, this will probably be in there for me because I do enjoy this one, although I hate his name, Hugh. After the best of both worlds established the Borg as one of Star Trek's most frightening villains, Iborg sought to humanise the mindless drones, which is something Star Trek tends to do a little bit too often, humanising the villains. They did it with the Hirogen as well, and Species 8472. But anyway. When the USS Enterprise D discovers a crashed Borg ship and a single surviving drone, Dr. Crusher insists on saving him. After his experience as Locutus of Borg, Picard is understandably wary of the drone, who later comes to identify himself as Hugh. After being given that name by Geordi, Jonathan Dell'Arco. As Lieutenant Geordi LaForge talks with Hugh, the Borg drone begins to develop more of an individual personality. LaForge and Data have found a way to implant a virus within Hugh that would disable the entire Borg collective, which raises ethical questions among the crew. Particularly Guinan, which is odd, seeing as her race essentially were wiped out by the Borg. But anyway. In the end, Hugh decides to return to the collective with the hope that his newfound individualism will affect the other Borg drones. Jonathan Dell'Arco reprised the role of Hugh in Star Trek Picard Season 1 before being killed while aiding Admiral Picard. Yes, he was. Yeah. Picard Seasons 1 and 2 are bloody awful, but Season 3 is okay. Not amazing, it's okay. Q-Who, this is one where we're introduced to the Borg in Season 2. And also where we're told there's something slightly odd about Guinan, which is never covered again. But anyway. No list, it's kind of mentioned again in Deja Q. But anyway, that's another thing. No list of great TNG episodes would be complete without the devious, omnipotent being known as Q, John Delancey. In Q-Who, just done Hugh, haven't we? In Q-Who, Q arrives on the USS Enterprise D and declares Captain Picard to be overconfident. To warn Picard about the dangers lurking in the universe, Q hurls the Enterprise across the galaxy. I think it's 7,000 light years, I think, where they encounter the Borg for the first time. Picard tries to reason with the cybernetic life forms before eventually firing on them with little effect. After the Borg kill 18 Enterprise crew members, Picard admits that he needs Q's help. Q sends the Enterprise back to its original location with a warning to be better prepared next time. With the introduction of the Borg, Who changed the trajectory of the Star Trek franchise. John Delancey is always a delight as Q, and as usual, his sparring with Picard, and there's another R in it, is a highlight. Who teased a complex history between Q and 10 forward bartender Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg, but Star Trek has yet to fully explain their past dealings, although we do learn in Star Trek Picard Season 2 that she's got a magic bottle of Q summoning stuff. I don't know, because it's stupid. It's Star Trek Picard Season 2. But she seems to have some sort of power, because they confront each other in 10 forward, and he's pointing, he's doing that. Does it show Guinan doing her thing? There's a Borg, there's more Borg, there's the Borg again. No, it's not showing it, is it? And she's like doing that as well, as though she's got powers. And he says she's an imp. He describes her as an imp. So do they're not. I don't think at this point we don't even know the name of her species. I don't think Elorian. I don't think that comes until Star Trek Generations. I think, but I could be wrong. But so we don't know. You know that we know that they're listeners, the galaxy's great listeners. But they also must have some powers because she's doing that anyway. But we know she's got a magical Q summoning bottle. Number 10, Tapestry, Star Trek Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 15. Yes, this is a great episode. This is one of those that's up there. When Captain Picard, Q again, by the way, when Captain Picard sustains a serious injury while on a diplomatic mission, he gets to revisit a past regret thanks to the omnipotent Q. It's kind of, It's a Wonderful Life sort of thing. Q sends Picard back to his Starfleet Academy days, where he avoids the fight that nearly killed him as a cadet. Picard then arrives back in the future, now only a junior science officer on the Enterprise. Picard then realises that his reckless actions as a cadet helped make him the man he is. After restoring the original series of events, Picard wakes up in sickbay on the Enterprise, back to being the ship's captain and laughing, I think. What's he laughing for? He's gone mad. Whether Picard's experiences were because he gets stabbed through in the back by what they call them? I forgot what they call them now. Stabbed in the back by, they look like predators. Win Grace will tell me in the comments. And the through the heart, so he's got an artificial heart as Picard, and he just laughs as he sees this happen to him because he knows everything's going to be okay. Whether Picard's experiences were a dream or not, Tapestry offers a fascinating glimpse at his academy days, where he had hair. Star Trek Nemesis. Tapestry is a simple episode, but it works thanks in large part to the always great dynamic between Patrick Stewart and John Delancey. Yes, it's a cool episode. Oh, here we see there he is in the where the Bajoran prophets are, maybe. There he is, in bed with him. There they get stabbed through the chest. Nausicaan, by a Nausicaan. Sorry, beat it to it. In the comments already, it's popped up, Nausicaan. Nausicaan. There we go. And there we go. That's he avoids the fight and he becomes a junior grade lieutenant on the Enterprise D because he avoided, danger, basically. He played it safe. After and then when he avoided dying at the hands of the Nausicaans, he played it safe after that, rather than being a go-getter. Anyway, so there we go. So nice to see all the different variations of uniforms. By the way, there's the old is it Mighty Maroon or whatever they called it. So yeah, cool episode, a really good one, that one. Right, number 9, Chain of Command, parts 1 and 2. I understand that it's a popular episode and it's a well-made episode, but it's not one of my favourite episodes. I think it's probably because it is kind of uncomfortable, particularly the second part. The first part's, just standard stuff. It's standard, Star Trek stuff. But the second part, where this is happening, basically, where Picard is captured by the Cardassians and basically tortured by Gulmadred, the late great David Warner. There are 4 lights, that. That's a bit uncomfortable to watch, where he's stripped naked and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a great episode, but not one of my favourites. Would I include it just because it's a well-made, well-regarded episode? Or I suppose so. I don't know. It's a list of the 25 best Star Trek episodes, not their favourite 25, isn't it? So yeah, it probably would be in there then. Right. In one of Star Trek The Next Generation's most brutal storylines, Captain Picard is captured by Cardassians while on a covert mission. This is also the one where the Enterprise is given to Captain Edward Jellicoe, Ronnie Cox, who, in my opinion, makes it a better ship. They change the crew rotations, and it gets basically gets Deanna Troi to accept that she's an officer on the ship and not just the ship's counsellor, and has her wearing the standard uniforms and stuff, and that moves to her to take the commander's exam. She becomes a full commander, down the line. So yeah, so there you go. Anyway, as the Cardassian, Gulmadred David Warner subjects Picard to various forms of torture, including making him eat raw Gaspar eggs. Jean-Luc refuses to break in temporary command of the Enterprise, although they say it's not really temporary command, because we're told they go through like a change of command ceremony, and we're told that they don't usually do that if it's going to be like temporary. So anyway, Captain Edward Jellicoe, Ronnie Cox, clashes with Commander Riker. Yes, who Jellicoe. What's the word? Dismisses him from duty, sort of thing, and restricts him to his quarters. There we go, that's what I'm trying to say. Who wants to mount a rescue mission. Anyway, Gulmadred shines 4 lights in Captain Picard's face, trying to convince him that there are 5 lights, but Picard remains defiant. Later, Jellicoe and Riker reluctantly work together to thwart a Cardassian attack, demanding Picard's release. Picard returns to the Enterprise, but admits to Counsellor Troi that he very nearly broke. Patrick Stewart and David Warner both deliver powerhouse performances as 2 men who refuse to back down. Picard wins the standoff, but only just. And also, Jellicoe also shows that he knows how to handle Cardassians in this. So he's a good captain. He's a different captain to what we've seen. And people think, he's tough, and people don't, his crew essentially don't like him, but he gets the job done. And that's his thing, that's his saying. Where Picard is, make it so. Jellicoe saying is get it done. That's what he says to him. And the crew have to get it done. Anyway, off we go. Number 8, Darmok. Another one of my favourites. I do like this one. This one has become a meme recently. Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Anyway, in many ways, Darmok is quintessential Star Trek with its story of 2 starship captains working to find common ground. Like enemy mine sort of thing, but different. Soon after, the Enterprise makes contact with a Tamarian ship called the Children of Tamar, but often shortened to Tamarian. Captain Picard and the Tamarian captain Dathon, Paul Winfield, who died so the white man could live, according to something I saw on the internet, are both transported to the planet Eladrel, unable to understand one another's languages. It's essentially true. They understand each other's language, they just don't understand what each other's talking about, because the Tamarians speak in metaphor, which is the Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, and so and so, his eyes uncovered, sort of thing. They speak, in basically quotes from their past or their history or their mythology. Anyway, that's how they communicate. I don't know how that works, when you get down to the minutiae of communications. But anyway, just as Picard and Dathon are beginning to understand one another, the Tamarian captain is fatally wounded by a predator on the planet. Quite literally a predator. It even looks like predator because it cloaks itself. The Enterprise then rescues Picard, who is able to tentatively communicate with the other Tamarians. Captain Picard shines here, as he must rely on his own instincts, knowledge and experience without the help of his crew. Because he goes on to tell the story of Gilgamesh. And I don't know, does he understand because he's just telling the story. But I suppose he does, because he says Gilgamesh and Enkidu at Uruk. So I don't know. But he's just telling him a story. He's not speaking to him, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the story hits all the right notes with a hopeful ending despite Dathon's tragic death. And we also see that the Tamarian ships are really powerful, and the Enterprise are kind of getting a pasting until they come to a rapprochement. That's the second time I've used that word today. Number 7, cause and effect. Another great one. Another one that I really like. Every genre series kind of has an episode like this. The Groundhog Day episode, where it just repeats itself over and over again. They've done it in this. They've done it in other things I've forgotten. They've done it in Supernatural, Happy Death Day, that sort of thing. Groundhog Day. They've done it in other things as well. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Anyway, remembered as the Star Trek The Next Generation episode that opens up with the destruction of the USS Enterprise D, cause and effect finds the iconic ship stuck in a Star Trek time loop that always ends in its destruction. As the loop continues to repeat, Captain Picard and his crew begin to experience deja vu. Yes, they do. Enterprise had a similar one as well, when they found a time ship. Data then works out a way to send a message to himself across the loops, which eventually saves the day. The Enterprise finally avoids the crash that repeatedly caused its destruction, discovering that the other ship has been trapped in the time loop for over 90 years. Picard then greets Morgan Bateson, Kelsey Grammer, Captain Morgan Bateson, and the USS Bozeman, a Soyuz-class starship, which is a Miranda variant, welcoming them to the 24th century. Cause and Effect is an incredibly fun episode, and Jonathan Frakes proves his skill as a director by making each loop feel distinct. Yes, one of my favourites, and it is really good. And there's Captain Morgan Bateson, loving being a Star Trek captain. Sorry, I thought that were from... we see her in on the bridge of the Enterprise B. I think it's Enterprise B in Generations. Is it from Aliens? Is it her? I don't know. Probably not. Just looks like her. Vasquez from Aliens. I forgot the name of the actress. Number 6, The Offspring. Don't like this one. Sorry. This came up. I've been rewatching TNG or bits of it. I don't watch it as a whole. I watch it in bits. And this came up as a next episode. I watch it on Netflix because it's on Netflix in the UK. The Offspring. Nah, I'll skip this one. I don't like this one. Although I understand why people do like it, but it's one I generally skip. In another data-centric episode, Star Trek Next Generation episode, the USS Enterprise D resident android is the chief of the head of operations, the resident android, creates a daughter for himself named Lal, played by Hallie Todd. As Data teaches Lal how to interact with humans and the world around her, Lal begins to grow even more advanced than Data. Starfleet threatens to take her away to a science station for further study, but Captain Picard fights for Data's right to keep his daughter. I suppose kind of a call back to Measure of a Man and all that. When Lal begins experiencing emotions, she suffers a catastrophic breakdown. Data works relentlessly to save his daughter, fighting just as hard as any father would, but even he cannot save her. After Lal ceases to function, Data downloads her memories into his own positronic net, preserving her in the only way he can. I suppose similar to the way he had kind of like the memories, but not really the memories of the colonists on Omicron. I forgot the name of it. The colony that were destroyed by the crystalline entity, where Data were created. They kind of had the memories, although it's in the form of personal logs and stuff, of all the people on the colony. The Offspring is a truly devastating episode of Star Trek, and Lal's creation continues to reverberate even in modern Trek stories. The Offspring was the first Star Trek episode directed by Jonathan Frakes. Oh, is it? I thought that was the drumhead. Oh, well, obviously I'm wrong. Who would go on to become one of the franchise's most beloved and prolific directors. Number 5, Yesterday's Enterprise, which I watched quite recently as well. You can tell I've been watching season 3 of TNG recently. Yes, this one would be up there. I thought they'd be higher than number 5, to be honest. I thought this would be 2 or 3. But anyway, here we are with Tasha Yar. I like Denise Crosby. She's a great actress, and she's gorgeous and stuff. But does she suffer from, I don't know, female 5 o'clock shadow? I joke that she's called Tasha Yar because she always looks like she's got a tash, as though she should get some, what they call it, a waxing. It needs a top lip waxed. That's what I'm trying to say. But I do love Denise Crosby. She's going to be in the a film that's coming up on this. What if you're watching this down the line? It won't make any sense. But we're doing Deep Impact, and she's in that. So there we go. Love Denise Crosby. Another memorable episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Yesterday's Enterprise, features the return of Lieutenant Tasha Yar, Denise Crosby, almost 2 years after the character's death in The Next Generation Season 1. And we also meet Captain Rachel Garrett, captain of the Enterprise C, who becomes the Red Lady, or whatever they call it, in Picard Season 3. There's a statue of a Starfleet recruitment centre on Metallus something, Metallus Prime, something like that. For some reason, when the crippled USS Enterprise C emerges from a rift in space-time, the universe shifts. The Enterprise D becomes a warship, fighting in the ongoing war between the Federation and the Klingons. The only one to sense anything amiss, Guinan insists that the Enterprise C must return to its own time. After discussions with Captain Picard and his crew, Captain Rachel Garrett, Tricia O'Neill, agrees to return to the past to save the future. Having learned of her tragic fate in the Prime Universe, Tasha Yar returns with the Enterprise C to the past, and the proper future is restored. Yesterday's Enterprise is a thrilling episode that remains a classic for a reason. Michelle Yeoh's upcoming Star Trek Section 31 film will feature a younger Rachel Garrett, played by Casey Roll. Yes, I'd forgot about that. But yes, a cool episode. If it had been made now, or maybe a couple of years later, a few years later, I think the space battle scenes, such as this, might have been a bit more dynamic. But as they were in Season 3 of TNG, they were a bit, I don't know. They were okay, for what it was, but they weren't exactly, action-packed, but they were fine. But, I forgot to mention, I'm going to see it again. I don't like what they did with the uniforms. We saw it also with I forgot his bloody name now. What's Wesley Crusher's dad called? I can't bloody remember his first name. We saw it with his hologram as well. He had the Mighty Maroon uniform, whatever they call it. But they've taken out the the inside part. It's like a polo neck thing, whatever you want to call it. A white, inside jumper, whatever. They've taken that away and it looks awful. Why don't they just give him something else? It just looks awful the way it just ends there on the neck. And it looks really uncomfortable. But anyway, Yesterday's Enterprise, great episode. Right, number 4, All Good Things, the finale, the 2-part finale. Up to things generally shown as a 1 part. Like a movie leading up to the movie. Anyway, here we go, All Good Things. When Captain Picard finds... What are we on, by the way? Number 4, right. When Captain Picard finds himself jumping across different time periods, he must rely on his friends and his own instincts to save humanity. Q pops up to inform Picard that humanity remains on trial. Pardon me. This is a call back to the very first episode, Encounter at Farpoint, where Q says, the trial never ends. He puts Picard and his bridge crew on trial for the crimes of humanity, and that the captain and his crew must prove themselves to the Q Continuum. Having grown fond of Picard over the years, Q caused Picard's time jumping as a way to help him find the solution. By the way, in this episode, great episode and a great finale, but some the elbowed in or shoehorned in, whatever, crowbarred romance between Worf and Deanna Troi, and it could be argued that they'd been building up to it over a few episodes, but it still felt a bit jarring, to me anyway. that there was suddenly this couple. They did it in Voyager as well with Chakotay and Seven of Nine. They do tend to do it. Anyway, and they kind of also did it in Deep Space Nine with what's the face, Ezri Dax and Julian. They kind of they throw people together in the final seasons and stuff of Star Trek series in the Berman era for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, Picard and his crew find a way to save the day as always, bringing three Enterprise Ds together from different timelines in a cool scene. Picard and his crew find a way to save the day as always, and the captain finally sits down with his friends for a long overdue poker game. All good things, sorry, perfectly wraps up. See, I'm getting emotional. Perfectly wraps up TNG's story, bringing the series full circle and offering a glimpse of a potential future. Even 30 years after it aired, All Good Things remains one of the best television finales of all time. Yes, it does, because it is. Some argue it's the perfect finale, and especially with this, when it shows the poker table, and then the camera pulls back and goes to the outside of the Enterprise, and we see the Enterprise saucer section with the cards kind of looking like the windows and stuff, and it's cool, and they recreated it in Picard at the end of Picard season 3 as well, which a lot of people liked. Right, number 3, The Inner Light. So what we got left then? Best of all that could be. What's going to be the top 2? I would say this could be the number 1, or Best of Both Worlds. Best of Both Worlds got to be in here, hasn't it? At number 2 or number 1. So what's the other one? I'm curious now. Curious, but it's Sub Rosa. Or Measure of a Man. It could be Measure of a Man. I bet it is. I bet number 3 is this. I bet number 2 is going to be Best of Both Worlds. I bet number 1's Measure of a Man. We'll see, won't we? Anyway, The Inner Light. There he's playing his flute. This is you could say it's an amazing episode, although not a lot happens in it. But it's still an emotional episode. The Inner Light has long been held up as one of TNG's best episodes, and it certainly deserves its reputation. When the Starship Enterprise encounters a strange probe, Captain Picard is rendered unconscious by an energy beam. By the way, I normally don't like episodes like this, like the Riker one, where he looks like he's crazy. That one, which was earlier on in this list. That one. I don't normally like the sorts of episodes with like an alternate view of a person, but this one's done differently. Then it essentially becomes another person living another life. Anyway, when the Starship Enterprise encounters a strange probe, Captain Picard is rendered unconscious by an energy beam. Picard wakes up as a man named Cayman, living on the planet Catan with his wife, Eileen, Margot Rose. Picard then lives an entire life as Cayman, having children and growing old. I suppose it was like a few years, I don't know. It was knocking on it. It was over 50, wasn't it? By the time this came along. So I don't know how long he lived after that. Enough for his kids to grow up, I suppose. Another 30, 40 years, probably. Picard's experiences in this episode remain with him for his entire life. Yes, they do. It says there. Picard later wakes up back on the Enterprise to find that only 25 minutes have passed for the rest of the crew. Prior to their destruction long ago, the Catan people sent out a probe so that they would not be forgotten. Patrick Stewart, as usual, delivers a captivating and nuanced performance. Picard's experiences in this episode remain with him for his entire life, and the flute found within the probe remains one of his most prized possessions, even decades later. Yeah, cool. I don't want to scroll down because I don't want to give away what number 2 is just yet. But yes, it is a cool episode and a really well done one. Although his wife does think he's mental because he's appearing. He's not Picard. He's Cayman, and it's a weird. It's like that Cayman's memories implanted in him from the probe. So like thousands of years ago, whenever it was. The Catan people must have chosen Cayman as a representative of their people. It's like their version of the Voyager gold discs, or the plaque on the Pioneer probes. His memories are like a version of that implanted into Picard. which is why they put his flute in the probe. So there we go. So it's cool, a cool episode and very emotional and really good. Right. What's number two? I want a surprise. Best of Both Worlds, number 2. I bet number 1's Measure of a Man. I bet it is, because we haven't seen that one yet, have we? I am the cutest of Borg. Star Trek The Next Generation delivered some great 2-part episodes over the years, and the Best of Both Worlds is fittingly the best. I think we're also the first, wasn't it? I think it was. After being introduced to the Borg in Who, the Federation has been preparing for a conflict with the cybernetic beings. When the USS Enterprise D confronts a massive Borg cube, the Borg kidnap Picard, assimilate him, and turn him into their mouthpiece Locutus. Riker's rival, Commander Shelby, Elizabeth Dennehy, returned as Admiral Shelby in Star Trek Picard Season 3 and was not killed, according to Terry Matalas, even though it looked like she was. But anyway, in command of the Enterprise, Picard then faces off against Locutus, forced to give the order to fire on his former captain. The first part of the Best of Both Worlds ends with one of Star Trek's and television's best cliffhangers, which left viewers wondering about Picard's fate for months. Yes. After arriving late to the devastating Battle of Wolf 359, the Enterprise rescues Picard and uses his connection with the Borg to destroy their cube. They put him to sleep, put the Borg to sleep, which sort of causes an overload and makes the cube blow up. But, whatever, it's fine. Great episode. And many people's favourite episodes, and it is a cool episode, a groovy one. Yes, number 1. Measure of a Man. Which is surprising, to be honest, although it is a good episode. And it does deserve to be in the top 5, I suppose, but I wouldn't have put it at number 1 myself. But anyway. Season 2, I think, as well, isn't it? Yes, Season 2. Many of Star Trek The Next Generation's best episodes came after its first 2 seasons, but The Measure of a Man proved the show's potential early. There were many great episodes in the first 2 seasons. There were, like I said, Measure of a Man and Who and Conspiracy. Neutral Zone. I really like the Neutral Zone episode. I think that's a really good one. That'd be my favourite, my top 25. I think it's really where we get to meet the Romulans again. And they're not saying, why have they got lumps on the foreheads? But anyway. Because suddenly they decided for the Next Generation that Romulans were going to have lumpy foreheads rather than just looking like Vulcans. And then in Picard, we learned that from different areas of Romulus, some have, I can't remember which is, from the northern part of Romulus, they have the lumpy foreheads, and from the southern part, they don't. Or something. Don't make a huge amount of sense, but never mind. Anyway, many of Star Trek Next Generation's best episodes came after its first 2 seasons, but The Measure of a Man proved the show's potential early when cyberneticist Dr. Bruce Maddox, Brian Brophy, who also pops up again in Picard, I think he does. Yes, he does. And gets murdered with no recourse on his murderer. The drummer from Scott Pilgrim. He proposes a plan to dismantle Data for further study. Data, of course, opposes this plan, but Maddox claims the android to be the property of Starfleet. Captain Picard then steps in to fight for Data's rights as an individual in a classic Star Trek courtroom scene. Where our mission is to find new life. Well, there it sits. Commander Riker has the unenviable task of arguing against his friend, but Picard emerges the victor in the end, delivering a powerful speech in Data's defence. The Measure of a Man perfectly encapsulates everything that Star Trek stands for, celebrating life in all of its diverse forms. The Measure of a Man. A man, for Christ's sake. I think it is a measure of a man, isn't it? Yeah. Succeeds in almost every way, cementing it as a classic and perfect episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. I wouldn't say it's perfect, though, but it is a really good episode, I must admit. Speaking of courtroom dramas in Star Trek, one episode that I'm surprised isn't here is, I've mentioned it already, The Drumhead. That's one of my favourites. That's an amazing episode, a bottle show, where It's just set entirely on the Enterprise, and that's an amazing episode with Admiral Nora Satie. Why isn't that in this top 25? So I can't agree with your top 25 here, Screen Rant, but I think that's it, isn't it? Yes, that was it. No more to add. But yeah, it'd be in the top, I don't know, top 5 at least, Measure of a Man for me. But yeah, it's a good list. It's a good list. Some of them I wouldn't put in, but some, most of them I think deserve to be in this top 25. So there we go. But I'm trying to think of others that I think should be in, and what can we think of that should be in? As I said, the Drumhead. What others is there? I like Evolution, the season opener for season 3. That is one of my favourites. I really like that one because that's about new life forms emerging, but in the form of nanobots. I do like that one. What else? I quite like the Timescape. I like that episode. I can't remember what season's that from. Is it 6 or 7? I think it's 6. Yeah, I think it's just before Descent. I think Timescape. I like that one. I think it's for the first time we see, maybe the only time we see a runabout on being used by the Enterprise crew. I think it's the only time we see that. But yeah, that's another one that I'd include in the top 25. But like I said, these are my favourites rather than the best. But I suppose you could argue because they're my favourites, I think they're the best. But anyway, so there we go. That was the top 25. Screen Rant's top 25 best episodes of TNG. Most of them I agree with. It's fine. So there we go. We'll leave it there. But I would have included the Drumhead at least in that top 25. Right. And not Sub Rosa. Or Conspiracy. Even though that wasn't in there. But that's another one of my favourites. Because it's bonkers and it's super gory at the end. Which I do like. Right. We'll leave it there. So, thanks for watching. Wherever you are, look after each other. And until next time, I'll say there.